Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface and welcome back to this Ferrari challenge. We're still on with season 3 here. We've got the first races coming up. We've got Abu Dhabi coming up. It's sort of the wrong track, it's got the wrong flag, but we'll still call it Abu Dhabi. Then we've got Suzuka, Japan coming up, the second race of this episode. It's going to be a full wet race, it looks like, so that's going to be a nice interesting race to see how this SF18 version of the Ferrari can do. Just a little side note before we jump in here. The game is going to be coming out with the 1.3 patch pretty soon, which might mess up this mod a little bit, which means we might need to take a break unless it works without the image files and so on and so forth, which we might have to do for a little bit. So it will mean we'll lose like the actual logos. Maybe we can think of a way to get those back into the game a little bit quicker this time, but we might lose the logos, we might lose the sort of the track flags and stuff like that, but we'll try work through it anyway, because 1.3 is coming out. It's going to fix a lot of stuff, it's going to change a lot of stuff about the game, so a lot of things are going to be rebalanced, so we might have to try and think about going about things in a new way, so that's going to keep things interesting this season. I'm not sure what date it's going to come out. It is in beta at the moment, so I'm not going to download the beta, but it will update itself automatically through Steam at some point once that goes live. And I think it's the 22nd of February, this game is also going to add a GT series to the game, so we'd have to start a new game for that. I'm not sure whether that's going to run alongside, whether you can have like an F1 team and a GT team at the same time, or whether you can switch from one series to another in the middle of a season. I don't know. I'm not sure how the GT series is going to run. I don't know if it's going to be based on the FIA GT series. That only ran 5 events this season, but I'm not sure how that's going to run. Maybe we're going to get some sort of crazy 24-hour event like Le Mans. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to jump straight in here. We've got Abu Dhabi as the first race. We do have Alliance as our main sponsor now. If we can come second or above, it's a little bit better than the one we had last time. Santander was always first or above. Now that we've got Schumacher and Charles Leclerc in the car, we're not guaranteed to come first, especially with Vettel in the Mercedes, although the Mercedes car is quite far behind. We can pick up 4.1 million if we do go and do that. We've got both drivers absolutely delighted with the car. Charles Leclerc does have equal status at the moment. Mick Schumacher still has reserve status, but we have offered him a new contract to make him equal status, so we have evened up the cars, but Schumacher does have the best engine by quite a margin. Everything else has gone pretty much into Charles Leclerc's car to even the cars up, so we're going to see what we can sort of get out of this car with these two drivers. A lot of the other cars, it took the other cars a long time to get over the reliability problems, so maybe that's going to work in our favour this time. Acceleration, front wing are crucial. Top speed, is the engine is useful here, so not as crucial as it is on some tracks, so maybe we're not going to be so far ahead. We will be so far ahead on the tracks that use the engine the most. But anyway, we're going to jump straight into practice now, run qualifying, and we'll be back in a moment with the grid for the 2018 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So here we go with the grid for the 2018 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Our prancing horses again, just like last season with Vettel and Sergio Perez, we are back again, 1 and 2 on the grid, both cars on the first row of the grid. As we can see, we've got Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel on the second row. Vettel, our own driver. I'll just go through again just in case anyone didn't watch the last episode to explain why we got rid of Sebastian Vettel. We got rid of him just because we'd achieved everything we could, and just because he is rated, he's actually rated as the best driver in the game now. He's improved his stats a little bit. He is rated better than Lewis Hamilton, he's better rated than Daniel Ricciardo is by far. And if we just keep him in the Ferrari with the most overpowered car, then it's going to be too easy for us. Sebastian Vettel's going to once again run away with the championship. And just because we're possibly going to be moving on from this series soon, because once the 2017 mod comes out, we're possibly going to swap over to that and then go for a manufacturer a little bit lower down the order, possibly McLaren or Renault, just to see what we can do with them, see if we can build them up enough to start winning some championships. This Ferrari is possibly going to fall by the wayside at that point once we move on to the 2017 mod. And the thing that I wanted to achieve most out of this Ferrari game is having the young driver academy drivers in the car and Mick Schumacher to try and get that Ross Brawn, Mick Schumacher Ferrari car ready, up and running and capable of winning a championship. That is the main aim that we were going for with this series. We're at a point now where that is achievable pretty much this season. It's going to be pretty interesting to see who can stay ahead between Schumacher and Leclerc. We've got a nice battle going on between them, and then we've got the Red Bulls, who should be fighting hard to keep up with us. Mercedes, meanwhile, they're going to be a little bit behind, because even though they've got Sebastian Vettel in the car, they've got Juncadella in the car, in the second car. I don't know what he's actually qualified here. I didn't look at the qualifying because I'm going to leave it to a surprise as we go through the grid, as we all go through the grid together. I don't think he's going to do that well, so he's possibly always going to be either in the lower points or outside the points, which means Mercedes aren't going to really challenge us in the constructors. So we're going to go down the grid now. So we've got our two Ferraris in first and second, Daniel Ricciardo third, Sebastian Vettel fourth, Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull 5th, Valtteri Bottas in the Williams in 6th, the other Williams of Nico Rosberg in 7th, and then we've got the First Force India in 8th place of Nico Hulkenberg. Lewis Hamilton in his first season back with McLaren, reunited with the McLaren team in 9th, Kimi Raikkonen in the other Force India in 10th, and there we go with Daniel Juncadella in the Mercedes and in 11th. Just slow this down a little bit. We've got Daniel Juncadella there in that other Mercedes in 11th place, so he's not doing terribly well, 2.5 seconds behind our Ferrari of Mick Schumacher. Fernando Alonso doing remarkably well. If you remember from the last episode, the Renault is rated the worst car overall, so Fernando Alonso doing really well to get 12th place there. Jolyon Palmer in the Toro Rosso in 13th, and the other Toro Rosso of Romain Grosjean in 14th. Marcus Ericsson as well in the Renault car, which is the worst on the grid, 15th. That's not too bad for him. Pascal Wehrlein 16th, Louis Delatraz in the other McLaren 17th, John-Eric Vergne in the other Manor in 18th, and then right at the back of the grid, struggling already this season, the two racing engineering cars of Jack Aitken and the GP2 champion last season, Norman Nato, all the way at the back of the grid. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with reliability this time around. We've got 17 laps here in Abu Dhabi. Schumacher can get 8 laps out of the soft tyre, so he's going to have to go soft and then medium. Leclerc can get 9 laps out of the soft tyre, so he can do 2 stops. Well, he can do 1 stop and do both stints on the super soft tyre. No, what am I saying, super soft? That's just a soft tyre. He can do 1 stop on the soft tyre, and Leclerc is battling with Schumacher here. We've got Vettel just behind them. We don't want our cars hitting each other. It looks like Leclerc's got the run down to this first corner, and Schumacher gets overtaken by Vettel there. Schumacher has got 1 Formula 1 race to his season. He raced the last race of the season last time out. He led most of that race after making an absolute storming move from the start, from the grid. I think he moved from 4th up to 1st. He did absolutely amazing in getting past everyone, but Vettel just kept with it and got past him. On the last about 4 laps to go, he got overtaken just as Vettel managed to get things together. Managed to use his overpowered car. He had a much better car at that point than the number 2 car Ferrari that we had, and he managed to get past him at that point. But we've got Leclerc holding his own here. I don't know if Mercedes are running the same strategy as last season that they did with Hamilton and Sainz, in that they pushed in overtake mode for the first 3 laps. And Leclerc's easy on fuel as well. Schumacher's burning a little bit of fuel here. But we should be able to get past this Mercedes of Vettel. But then again, that depends on how good Mick Schumacher is at overtaking. Because once this Mercedes turns down, we should be able to catch them. And then, as we saw last season, Hamilton had a lot of reliability problems as the Mercedes tried desperately to close that performance gap with us. Whether they're going to have that same reliability problems this time round with Sebastian Vettel's car, I don't know. But that will possibly work out again in our favour. But as you can see, this little trio, this is possibly going to be how everything goes in the early going of the season, where our 2 Ferraris and the Mercedes of Sebastian Vettel are able to pull away pretty easily. I'm thinking Vettel has turned down his engine because we're being able to pull away now with Charles Leclerc. As you can see, as soon as Vettel or the Mercedes go ahead and turn down their engine, we can just shoot off into the distance. It would ideally be best if we could keep both our cars in front of the Mercedes before they did that, because we do have the potential to get stuck behind them, especially on some of the tracks where overtaking's kind of hard. We've got one little attempt here. We've got one straight where we've got a really good chance, but Schumacher really needs to stay on the back of Vettel if that is to be the case. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this lap. Charles Leclerc is getting up to 5 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel here. And as we get stuck behind Vettel now, it's giving the Williams a little bit of a chance to catch us up. Schumacher should stay right on the back of him, and he would be able to get past him on that straight because he's got such an overpowered engine as Mick Schumacher. But he's struggling a little bit here to get past Sebastian Vettel. We're going to actually go ahead and turn down here. We've got these tyres a little bit overheated, haven't we? We could have really done with trying to make those last a little bit longer. But they're kind of hot at the moment, so we're possibly going to drop back here with Schumacher now that we've turned down. But what we're going to aim to do is when we make the pit stops, we're going to try and get, at that point we're going to try and get past them, because that is a point where we should be able to make up the difference if we go ahead and push at that point. Because we're getting stuck behind Vettel trying to overtake, and it's quite difficult on this track to overtake, that is when we're going to try and make our move through the pits. We have 38% of this tyre left. What's Vettel got at the moment? 34%, so he's not doing as good as well, but he seems to be doing a little bit better reliability wise with his car. Last season the Mercedes, every time they came in for their first pit stop, Hamilton was having to do a lot of repairs to his car, and he was staying in the pits for a whole lap of the track from the other cars. Usually ended up coming out of the pits in 20th place. We're just going to have to be careful with pit stops here, because Schumacher's going to have to come in pretty soon. And we're already in a position where we can conserve a little bit of fuel. And is that Vettel coming in this lap? Vettel's coming in this lap. Could have really done with staying out another lap with Schumacher. Maybe we can do. The soft tyre, I think, drops off at the 15% mark. Is where the soft tyre drops off. So we can possibly wait for Vettel to come into the pits here, and we can run overtake mode, go back to neutral on the tyres. We want to run high and neutral here as well. Could we get another lap out of these tyres with Leclerc? We can do. We can go back to high mode with Leclerc. What we need to do now is try and get enough of a gap over Sebastian Vettel whilst he's in the pits. We really need to make up some time here. These soft tyres don't drop off till the 15% mark. Even though it goes into the red, you can still get round to about 15% before you start to lose any real performance in the car. So we're going to set up Schumacher's pit stop now. We're going to have 9 laps remaining, so we're going to have to come in for a medium. We don't want to risk these soft tyres wearing out too much. So we're going to have to go medium this time. Where is Vettel? So he's going to get helmed up as well, hopefully. No, he's got a bit of clear track, hasn't he? But he's coming for the hard tyre. Sebastian Vettel. That's going to bode well for us because we've got a medium tyre on, which is possibly about 3/4 of a second quicker than the hard tyre that Vettel's got on. So we've done a nice quick lap there as well. So we might, if we get a good pit stop, we're going to be out in front, and we really want to get Charles Leclerc into the pits now. He can go for a soft tyre. We could have possibly gone for the soft on Schumacher's car as well, but we don't want to risk him. Just wait for him coming out of pits. So Schumacher gets out in second. So where is... He's a long way behind. Did he have to do repairs to his car? Have we got the same problems with Mercedes again? So they've done some repairs to their car, which is not them really far down the order here. And we really need to start recovering some fuel now that Schumacher's in second place. He's got 18 seconds to Leclerc, although it is a short pit lane here on this track because we cut some of the track out. So that should be enough for Leclerc to get back out in first place. We're going to run Schumacher in high mode. We're going to push these tyres because they're losing a little bit of temperature here. 18 going down. Is Schumacher going to be able to get ahead of Leclerc as he makes his pit stop? What we don't need is a bad pit stop from Charles Leclerc, from his pit crew. So here we go into the pits. All good. It looks like he's just going to get back out in front. Schumacher gets the lead there, but as you can see, we cut this last corner, these last 2 corners here, well, these first 2 corners of this track out, and there goes Leclerc into first place. Leclerc obviously does have a lot more fuel. Schumacher's going to have to start conserving, running in neutral because we're in optimum temperature right now. Leclerc does have a lot of fuel left, so it looks like Leclerc's going to be able to confirm this race here as he's going to start pulling away a little bit. Schumacher does have the better engine, which by far and away is the most important part to go in the car, as it does make a lot more performance difference than the other parts as we've tested in previous series. But there we go. We've got 7 laps remaining of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is pulling away pretty quickly here. We've got to try and recover some fuel before we can start going high mode with Schumacher. We've got a Williams up in 3rd. Alonso in the Renault is in 4th. But yeah, he's not made a pit stop yet. As neither is Jolyon Palmer or Raikkonen. Roman Grosjean is the next quickest car after Bottas at the moment, who's done 1 stop. Sebastian Vettel now is back up into 7th place, but he's 60 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. That's a crazy time. We've got 13 seconds back to Bottas, so the Williams are actually looking pretty strong this season. The other Williams of Nico Rosberg, where is the other Williams? 10th. The Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo is in 9th at the moment, and the other one is in 12th, so it looks like Red Bull are having some problems as well with their car. Charles Leclerc still is extending this gap ever so slightly. And then we've got Palmer, who's got into the pits and managed to get back out in 4th place ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel is currently in 5th. He's chasing down. Is he 6 seconds between them? Is he slowly gaining on Jolyon Palmer? I guess we'll see on this next lap what they're doing. But Leclerc did an amazing lap last lap. The last 2 sectors he set quickest times in the overall race. I'm not sure if that was the quickest lap overall, but he sets his quickest first sector again. He's going even quicker on this lap as his tyres are managing to stay nice and even in the optimum temperature. We've got the right weather conditions here for this tyre. 22 degrees, sort of holds the tyres in the right temperature, sort of increasing slightly, so we might conserve in a little bit, but we've got a nice clear run to the end of the race. Charles Leclerc he's done the same absolutely again with that last lap. He does a 152, whereas Schumacher did a 154, Vettel did a 156. Jolyon Palmer is actually lapping quicker than Sebastian Vettel at the moment. That's because Palmer is on a fresher pair of medium tyres, whereas Vettel is on a warm pair of hard tyres, so I'm guessing that's what the difference is there. Alonso now has dropped all the way to the back. As we saw when we clicked on him, he was having some reliability problems. He's still having reliability problems right now. Where is Lewis Hamilton in his McLaren? Obviously Lewis Hamilton moved to the black McLaren last season, or in the off season. He is currently 13th and struggling in this really poor McLaren, whereas Louis Delatraz in the other one is 19th at the moment. Norman Nature's got up to 14th, whereas Jack Aitken is 11th. So Racing Engineering not doing too badly here. I'm guessing they don't have the same sort of reliability problems that the other cars have. Having reliability problems right at this moment, but it looks like they've got away without having to make a pit stop to sort of correct them. Right, so we've got enough here. So Schumacher's going to try push for a lap here, just to see if he can get sort of see what sort of distance he can gain here. See what sort of lap he can do in overtake mode. He's closed about a second already. But Charles Leclerc does have the advantage in that he can conserve fuel. That is going to be his one advantage over Schumacher this season, in that he's going to be able to push his car for a little bit longer. As we can see, Schumacher's already back down to the point there. He did a 152.6, 1.3 seconds quicker than that of Leclerc, but obviously Schumacher can't do that for very long. He's going to get another lap or two where he can go back to high mode. So we'll go back to high mode here. Can he still close this gap if he's running similar conditions? Obviously he's on a slower tyre as well, because he can't go as long on his tyres as Charles Leclerc does. Leclerc is better on his tyres than Schumacher is. I don't know what stat affects that. Is it smoothness, I would guess? Or yeah, I guess it's a smoothness one that does that. But we need to be careful with Schumacher's fuel here. He's in the minus. It's ever so slight. You can get to the end of the race with minus 0.5. You can usually get across the line without losing any time. So this is the final classification for the race. Charles Leclerc, obviously the winner. Mick Schumacher second. Valtteri Bottas third. So it's pretty interesting that the Williams are going to be our main competition at this part of the series. Mercedes are having a lot of reliability problems, just like they did last season. Julian Palmer in 5th in the Toro Rosso, not too bad there from them. The two Red Bulls in 6th and 7th. We got the other Williams, Nico Rosberg in 8th, the Force India of Hulkenberg 9th. Lewis Hamilton managed to get up into the points in 10th place. Marcus Ericsson did alright in the Renault, managed to get up into 11th. Junker Dell, the Mercedes 12th. Norman Nato did really well in his racing engineering car to get 13th. Other ones of note, Verline, Raikkonen, Verne, Alonso doing pretty poorly in this Renault, 17th place. Roman Grosjean obviously retired, and Jack Aitken struggling in the racing engineering car. And we did our laps in the mid 152s, no one else getting anywhere close to us under racing conditions. So scrutineering, no one should have any problems with their cars at this point of the season. And there we go, 25 and 18 points. Let's see what that does. It should be Williams second in the Constructors' Championship. So there we go, Ferrari, we've already got a 24-point lead back to Williams, then Red Bull, then Mercedes, then Toro Rosso, Force India, McLaren, and Renault Racing Engineering and Manor yet to score points. So everyone happy, we're building relationships with the mechanics. We came first overall, 4.1 million going into the bank. That's a massive amount of money. If we can keep that up for the season, that is around 64 million pounds we're going to be able to put in, plus the 100,000. So yeah, it will be like 65.5 million pounds that we're going to end up getting if we can keep up these results. GP2, Esteban Ocon in the Sauber won there, so Sauber picking up a little bit this season. Genza, their first season in GP2, doing pretty well, and Jake Hughes in the Dams car as well. It looks like the Art car with Button and Sainz are struggling, and Sergio Perez outside the points as well in the Prima. Lance Stroll struggling as well, so it looks like Art and Prima are going to have another season where they underperform. Just going to have to see what that goes on to. And Arden with Nick De Vries winning the first race. Joe Ericsson second, and Sergio Camara in the Motorpark third. Sergei Sorokin in the Status. Obviously, Status were winning the championship for much of last season, but then eventually, right at the last couple of races, they got overtaken by Genza. And we've got the new engine built, so hopefully we can get that reliable enough to go in the car for the next race. So both cars should have similar engines going into the next race. And this game taking a while to save there, so we're going to go ahead. Now we're going to skip ahead to Suzuka. We'll come back at the race start, see if we've got Mick Schumacher re-signed to a new contract, and see if we can get this engine reliable enough. Let's go with an interview. Immensely talented. Not until they fix the these little sort of interview bits. It's always best to go with a second. It always makes the drivers happy. No negative effects for that one. Race win, hard fought win, engine build, and there we go. The contract offer is already accepted. Right, so we have to sign it anyway. So they're both equal drivers now. So the contract renewed. The car, the engine is, what is it rated? A 1545 to the 1508. Second best part. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead now, try and get that reliable enough. We'll come back when it's about time to get into the Suzuka weekend, and we'll go from there. Right, so we're here at the start of the Suzuka weekend. We've managed to work on this engine to get it reliable enough to go in the car of Mick Schumacher. Probably we're going to put it in. We've also managed to build a rear wing, but we've not been able to work on it to get the reliability up to get it ready to go in the car. We're also working on suspension now. What we try to do is get both cars to a similar level, because it is quite a big discrepancy between the parts of both cars. In that way I have to go with a few better parts for one car over the other one. But they've both got similar engines. We've now got the scouting reports back for Jack Aitken. He's a 3-star rated driver. Now to see what Daniel Juncadella is at 2.5, so I don't know why Mercedes have gone for him. That's almost as a ludicrous decision as Renault putting Cam and Jordan in the car last season. Yeah, so we're going to jump in to the Suzuka race weekend now. We're going to run practice, run qualifying, and we'll be back with the grid for the 2018 Suzuka Grand Prix in a moment. So here we go with the grid for the 2018 Suzuka Grand Prix. As you can see on the background, it is raining. We are on full wets for the start of this race. It's going to rain for quite a bit, so I don't know if it's going to rain for the entire race. I just have to keep an eye on the weather and see what happens. But anyway, we are number 1 and 2 on the grid again. Schumacher again gets qualifying pole. Charles Leclerc a tiny little bit behind, under a tenth of a second behind, and as you can see on the second row of the grid there is a long way back there to Daniel Ricciardo, 3.5 seconds behind. Qualifying was all on dry, so I'm not sure what the difference is there, whether that's just because of the difference between our engine on this track. Maybe the engine is crucial for Suzuka, so maybe that is why we're so far ahead. But anyway, Daniel Ricciardo in third, Sebastian Vettel in fourth, Nico Rosberg in fifth, so pretty good from the Williams there. Max Verstappen sixth, Valtteri Bottas in the other Williams seventh, Nico Hülkenberg in the Force India in eighth, Kimi Raikkonen in the Force India ninth. Daniel Juncadella gets into the top 10 this time in the other Mercedes, pushing Lewis Hamilton back to 11th in the McLaren. Jolyon Palmer 12th, Fernando Alonso doing pretty well in the Renault again, managing to get a lot out of that really poor Renault car. Roman Grosjean 14th, Pascal Wehrlein 15th, just like last season. Marcus Ericsson 16th, Louis Delatraz 17th, John Rickford 18th, and once again the two racing engineering cars a long way behind at the back of the grid, 7.6 seconds behind our pole sitting Ferrari. Norman Nato 7.8 seconds behind, so Jack Aitken doing a little bit better than the GP2 champion this season. Quite interesting. I'm guessing a lot of the cars are still going to have reliability problems this time. Vettel is actually fourth this time, so we need a really good start. And look at that, Charles Leclerc off again. Schumacher once again gives up first place, and they're battling with each other again. Gonna have, is Charles Leclerc gonna gain? No, Schumacher manages to get the momentum, and now Charles Leclerc ends up losing place to Daniel Ricciardo and to Sebastian Vettel as well. So Leclerc drops down the order there, losing a few places, and he lost momentum possibly through one of the corners. Battling with Schumacher, he's dropped back 2 places as we finish the first lap. So I'm guessing even in this wet weather the Mercedes are pushing again. It looks like it's going to be wet for a lot of this race, so we're going to be able to do it in one stop, possibly on this wet tyre. What we're going to do is try and conserve. No, we really need to get some temperature in these tyres as well. The weather, the track still is pretty warm, so it might be easy enough to get these into the optimum temperature. It's not that cold, so we should be able to stick with that. Leclerc tries to go around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo but can't quite get it. We don't really want this Ferrari stuck for too long. It's going to allow Sebastian Vettel to start pulling away, because the Mercedes will still be... No, they've actually turned down pretty early. No, it's about the same time that they usually turn down, isn't it? And Charles Leclerc actually stuck in 4th place here. Should we try push this car a little bit more? We can't really risk pushing these tyres too much more than we are doing. We're going to have to turn down to medium at some point. All the other cars possibly have done that already. We have not as yet. Should we go a lap in overtake mode just to see if Charles Leclerc can get these places back? Since he's easy on the fuel, it will be easy for him to recover this. So there goes. No, he can't quite get past Ricciardo, but gets it on that corner, gets up the inside. Right, now he's got to try chase down Sebastian Vettel here. Should we go back to medium mode to high mode a little bit? Even medium mode, are we still going to catch the Mercedes? We need to go neutral with the tyres. Schumacher's got a long distance, we might as well go neutral with him. We don't need to risk him having any accidents. Charles Leclerc is actually dropping behind the Mercedes of Vettel here as we try match what they're doing. No, there we go, we're starting again now. It must have just been a little, I don't know whether we're slower around some of the corners. And we've got a safety car coming out of the pits. We've got Roman Grosjean, who has crashed. Where's he crashed? Don't know, let's have a look. See if we can see him there. He's gone off into the gravel trap. So we've got a safety car, which is possibly going to mess it up a little bit for us here, because it's going to allow Vettel to catch Schumacher back up. We don't really want to pit as yet, or should we pit? We're going to have to think about this as we come to the pit. If we pit onto a wet tyre, it looks like the rain is going to calm down at some point. Is it going to rain? Is the rain going to go to a point where we can come in for intermediates? We can't quite see that far ahead yet. Is Vettel coming into the pits? Yeah, the computer are coming in to change their tyres, so we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to get a fresh pair of wet tyres on here. We're going to risk it, and that should see us through until we need to come in for the intermediates, because it is going to start, the rain's going to start slowing down around lap 12, 13, somewhere around that point. So we're going to get both cars into the pits here. We shouldn't be in any danger of double stacking. There we go. Schumacher's out. Leclerc's through. Ricciardo's staying out. So we're going to come out in 2nd and 8th. But we're going to have the fresher tyres as this race restarts. So we're going to go back up and low. We're going to conserve a lot of this fuel. Leclerc back in 8th. Schumacher 2nd. So we'll come back when the safety cars are about to come in. And we'll resume the racing from that point. So we're getting ready to go racing here. We're trying to get a little bit more temperature back into these tyres since we've been running behind the safety car. They've gotten quite cold. As we know, let's push back a little bit further, but around that 13, we're going to be able to go for intermediate. So all of these cars that didn't pit, their tyres are going to degrade before that point. So they're either going to have to come in for a pit stop or they're going to have to run in backup mode to try get to that point. It is kind of risky on their part, whether they can do it or not, I don't know. We're going to go back up high mode now. So Schumacher is behind Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously Ricciardo didn't pit, and there Schumacher already gets past him. Charles Leclerc is already up into 5th place, and that is Sebastian Vettel that he gets past, which is he going to get past him? Is he going to get past him? Leclerc has the speed, and there we go. Leclerc managed excellent to get past Sebastian Vettel, so that puts him ideally back in 2nd place. And there we go, the Williams of Rosberg having problems here. We can afford to push these tyres quite a bit. Oh, there's going to only be 2 laps. There's only going to be 2 laps where the intermediate's going to... Well, there's going to be 4 laps, isn't it? Because I'm guessing the intermediate, we can't do that. At that point, just under the mouse cursor and down and to the right a little bit, is where we can possibly get onto an intermediate tyre. It looks like it's going to start raining again after that point. No. Then it drops off again. So yeah, intermediates at that point, which means we can really just sort of wear through this pair of wet tyres. And Leclerc is already on the back of Daniel Ricciardo here. Is he going to be able to get past him? Let's just see the skill of Leclerc here. Schumacher's built himself up a nice lead of 6.5 seconds already. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Red Bulls are going to try push through, and the other cars as well, or whether they're going to try and push through on this pair of wet tyres until we can go intermediates. There's another 3 laps before that can happen. As we can see, Ricciardo's already pretty low on these tyres, and there we go. Charles Leclerc goes past him. Charles Leclerc gets into the lead. Sebastian Vettel gets past Daniel Ricciardo as well, as his tyres are about starting to drop off here. We're going to try now go back into neutral mode as these tyres are now in the optimum temperature. We managed to recover a lot of fuel, so we can go high mode for the rest of the race. We can go into overtake mode if we need to, whether we feel any pressure from Sebastian Vettel. But as it is at the moment, Charles Leclerc is now starting to pull away from Sebastian. We're getting into a nice groove here. We're starting to get back into the lead. We're just waiting for this rain to die off. That is possibly the last lap of the race as well, which should suit wet tyres, but we're going to go for intermediates possibly after this lap. We're going to just try to keep an eye out for the Mercedes. We're going to try to keep an eye on what they're doing, just to judge this right. It's going to be, yeah, there's going to definitely be another lap before we can come in for the intermediates, because we're coming around quite quickly. Schumacher is still this 10.7 gap over Leclerc. That's not really changing, but this time we're going to try. The rain is going to drop off. Should we try go another lap? Verstappen has managed to get all the way around. He should be coming out in intermediates, but he's going to be nowhere near close to us for that to make a difference. Vettel, meanwhile, he's not coming into the pits. It doesn't look like it. Looks like he's going to try stretch another lap here. The track is drying pretty quickly. It's still not in the right zone. Still not in the right zone for intermediates, but that is going to change over the course of this lap. Should we bring one of our cars in at this point? Let's just see what we can get out of this intermediate. It's most effective where the line is more solid blue, so it doesn't really matter what tyre we're on. So should we try go intermediate for Leclerc a little bit early, and then we sort of get an idea, we get a sort of inside look of how the tyres work on different. And it's drying out pretty rapidly actually as the track, isn't it? So then now we're going to set up Schumacher's lap for after this one. He can go intermediate. He's going to go balanced. What we're going to do with both cars for their first lap out of the pits, we're going to run overtake mode because we've got a lot of fuel to go here, and that's just to make sure that Charles Leclerc stays ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, he had about 11 seconds down to Schumacher, and Schumacher's going to come in this lap for his pair of intermediates. Charles Leclerc is gaining quite a lot here, so I don't know if Charles Leclerc is going to get the lead, but we're going to be able to go overtake mode out of the pits and push as well. Schumacher should just be able to keep the lead here. And Vettel is staying out. I don't think he's going to try and get to the end of the race. I don't know why he's not coming to the pits. Pretty strange decision, but Schumacher 6.6 seconds, so Leclerc managed to gain about 4 seconds there. Obviously he's going to drop off a little bit because we're going to go back to high mode with him. Schumacher's got one lap in overtake mode and he's coming up pretty quickly on Sebastian Vettel. There you go, Schumacher back into first. Leclerc might even be able to catch Vettel before he gets to the pits as well. And there we go, Leclerc as well gets past Sebastian Vettel. So our Ferraris again, 1 and 2. Once again, back in the lead, and there goes Vettel. I don't know if he's having problems with his car, whether he's going to end up being in the pits for quite a while here. No, he's out pretty quickly, so he's not having the same kind of reliability problems that Hamilton had during the season last season. So that's good to see from the Mercedes, that their problems aren't that bad. I'm going to have to go back because Schumacher's used all of his fuel here, whereas we've got quite a bit left with Charles Leclerc that he can push now, see if he can get a little bit closer to Schumacher, who's got no real chance of making up almost 10 seconds here. But he does have a little bit of fuel to burn. 9.3. Vettel still third. Vettel went for another pair of wet tyres. Is he actually going quicker than us? He's actually losing time on this wet tyre. Whether they're planning ahead for this. This second to last lap is not really suitable for the wet tyre either. The last lap is suitable for a wet tyre, but not over any great margin over the intermediates. So only a few cars actually went for the intermediates, and as we can see, Vettel is falling behind rapidly still. I don't know why the computer went for wet tyres there right at the end. Vettel dropping off, which should mean Jean-Eric Vergne, if we can see. Is he actually gaining on Hulkenberg? I don't know, we'll see at the end of the race. Vergne is in 7th. Delatraz doing pretty well in the McLaren. Up in 8th place. Hamilton up in 5th, so not too bad from the McLaren there. And here we go. We're coming round to the end of the race here. Just a couple of corners left here for Schumacher. And Vettel's falling behind here. Has he got a problem with his car? Vettel's got a problem with his car that he's fallen behind Ricciardo and Hamilton now. So that's a really good race from Hamilton in the McLaren up into 4th place. But here we go with Schumacher. He's about to cross the line, and there goes Mick Schumacher, lapping Sebastian Vettel. Almost. Oh no, he's just run out of fuel. He's just run out of fuel, but he's got enough. He's got a massive gap. Oh, what's happened to Leclerc? Oh, totally not paying attention. What am I doing? What am I doing? So good job. There's a massive gap there back to. Where's Hamilton? Where's Ricciardo? Miles behind, thankfully. Oh, I wasn't paying attention there. What was I doing? But we still get first and second. That was so lucky there. Almost messed that up. I was too busy going through the other cars, I think. Just seeing what the running order was of all the other cars. But we had that much of a gap. It didn't really matter in the end. But there we go. Another 1-2 there from Schumacher and from Leclerc. They've swapped positions from the first race, so they will be equal on the points in the drivers' standings. So first and second, absolutely brilliant, and not a bad race from Lewis Hamilton. Alonso still doing poorly in the Renault. The other Renault of Marcus Ericsson all the way down in 16th. Quite a few retirements there towards the end of the race. 4 cars actually retired. Verstappen, Aitken, Raikkonen and Grosjean all retired here. So scrutineering shouldn't be anyone at this point of the season running risky parts. So that's not a bad race for the McLaren. That's the first time. Oh no, Louis Delatraz just finished outside the points. I was going to say it's the first time McLaren have finished in the both cars in the points in this series. But yeah, so just outside there for the other McLaren of Delatraz. So there we go, 43 points both for Leclerc and Schumacher. Ricardo on 23, he's the next best. Sebastian Vettel obviously still having some problems with his car, 22 points for him. Red Bull still second, Williams third now, Mercedes up into fourth. McLaren look like they've got fifth place sewn up this season with Hamilton in the number 1 seat. Force India Toro Rosso battling out for 6th place, and then we've got Mana Racing. It's going to be between Renault and Racing Engineering here. Renault should be able to stay ahead just because Fernando Alonso should be finishing a lot better than what Aitken and Norman Nato can do. But there we go, that's the end of the Suzuka Grand Prix. Everyone's still happy here. Who is gaining the most? Schumacher is gaining a lot here, so he should be able to improve a lot better than Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, I think, is just about, his main stats come from smoothness and consistency, whereas Schumacher is a lot better at braking and cornering. He's a lot better at overtaking as well. His consistency is not as good, but he's pretty decent. His fitness is just a little bit under that of Charles Leclerc. Obviously, Schumacher's not as fit as his dad is. If Michael Schumacher was in this game, his fitness will be rated as a 20. That's what he was famous for being one of the first drivers that been bringing a physical sort of fitness about being a Formula 1 driver. Schumacher is better at feedback, and their focus is just about the same. HQ, we're only a few weeks away, so these will all be ready in time for Shanghai. We will have the new rear wing ready to go in the car as well. It's going to be another wet race as well in China. The suspension should be built, and hopefully that's good enough to go in the car. So we're going to be seeing some more improvements from this Ferrari, which is already impressive this season. Looks like we're on course for another Constructors win, and it's all going to be about who's going to win the Drivers' Championship between Mick Schumacher and Charles Leclerc. Maybe leave a comment down below with who you would like to see win the championship, Schumacher or Leclerc, or who you think will win the championship. But that's where we're going to leave this episode. We're possibly going to be back for Shanghai and Barcelona. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to film 2 tomorrow. Maybe it's just going to be the 1, and then we'll go over the weekend with 1 race as we usually do over the weekend. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave this episode. Thank you for everybody for subscribing so far. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up for this video if you think we're doing excellent again with this Ferrari car, and leave a comment as well, as I said, who you would like to see win the title, Schumacher or Leclerc. But until next time, I'll see you down the road in China for the Shanghai Grand Prix, and goodbye.